You're serving your people. You've established certain specializations in your compassionate care and support of others. Today, I'm going to share with you secrets to dealing with victims of psychopaths in your practice. Expanding your practice can be as easy as placing a flyer in your waiting room, adding a line to your business profile, or taking a certification for a particular malady or modality. If your schedule is full, you might not feel like it's necessary to expand your therapeutic practice. But I will tell you this, if your schedule is full, you could probably do better. And it's probably time to raise your prices. As you expand your reach, quantity, and quality of your services, you need to raise your prices accordingly. Doing so keeps you faithful to your calling and allows the universe to take your quality of service and life to the next level. Now, keep in mind that expanding your practice to invite victims of psychopaths to seek out you for help and support, this is not as wide or profitable a market segment as, say, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. But some of the same modalities are used for victims of psychopaths, for they do suffer from PTSD. Serving victims of psychopaths is not for the weak or faint of heart. It takes a lot of strength and fortitude to deal with any fallout that you might be exposed to by offering support to the psychopath victim, just as much or more so than availing your services to victims of physical violence. Now, if you serve victims of physical violence, you know there's a good chance that you have had to intervene in ways where you and or your practice may have been at risk of being attacked by the violent offender. So you must have your affairs in order and have the strength necessary to help someone embroiled in these unique, challenging, and potentially dangerous situations. Number 1, be keenly aware. You may have been exposed to psychopathy unawares, so it's imperative that you're understanding something about predatory psychopaths who might be seeking to exploit you and your services, and possibly even use you as an instrument to further victimize your client or patient. Let's say you offer couples counseling and you have a couple that has come in searching for assistance with their relationship. A terribly psychopathically abused victim may be able to get access to your services by negotiating with his or her psychopath. Now, this is a huge step for the victim to be able to get access to someone like you outside of this risky relationship, but the victim will not be able to communicate with you like he or she might if they were in a normal relationship. It's up to you as the coach, counselor, or therapist to find ways to communicate with the potential victim without the predatory psychopath having a clue. And believe me, they are not stupid. They could have this victim wired or are recording any communication they might have while the psycho is not around. So it's up to you to pay very close attention with any moment of private time you spend with the victim. It might look like this. The psychopath excuses him or herself for a moment, leaving you alone with the victim for a few moments. So you ask the victim how things are going, and he or she will respond with how good things are going. But if you pay very close attention and watch his or her eyes, you will see a look of fear or terror that is incongruent with the words he or she is speaking. Be careful what you say and how you say it from that point forward, because there's a 99% chance of the room or your client being bugged. Number 2, play along. If you are a certified psychopath victims coach, you know how to find the signs and how to play along, saying the right things with the right voice inflections so as not to raise any red flags to the psychopath that you are on to him or her. If you are not skilled in this area, do not try to prolong the covert incongruent communication, because the psychopath may be able to sense something is up after he or she listens to the playback of the recording. This could potentially put your victim or client at greater risk of further psychopathic abuse. Once you have reasonably identified your client as a potential psychopath victim, the key is to play along with the psychopath while you start getting things set up to better serve your potential victim or client. Even if your client's abuser is not a psychopath, he or she is more than likely in a toxic relationship, and it still may be extremely dangerous. So when potentially dealing with a psychopath, it's imperative that your note-taking and record-keeping of your sessions are thorough and accurate while you play along as you allow the psychopath to think he or she is running the show. See, there's a good chance that the psychopath will assure you that there's no serious problems to be addressed in the relationship. He or she will present you with a laundry list of surface problems he or she has invented for you to focus your efforts on. And if the psychopath lets you think serious problems do exist, they will be focused on the victim partner. In this case, the psychopath will be presented as being victimized by the victim, and the victim will play along, letting the psychopath put him or her down, as you can offer some support for these illusionary sleights of hand while you are preparing for a greater degree of assistance to offer the real victim in the relationship. It's easy to see how crazy making this can be, but trust me, the real victim here is depending on you for some hope of compassion, help, and you might be his or her only hope for escape from this horrific situation. Number 3, remain emotionally protected. Now, if you have experience in crisis counseling or intervention, you probably already have these skills necessary to remain disassociated from the victim's pain and suffering, even if it's not expressed. And you'll be able to resist the magnetic charm and manipulation tactics and other emotional weapons wielded by the psychopath. This couple will be challenging for you to deal with. You can only do what you can do, so do what you can without outing yourself or beating yourself up, putting yourself at risk, or getting emotionally attached to these people or any perceived or preferred outcome. If you are able to have the energy and wherewithal to serve your other clients, you must not lose yourself in the drama of this couple. Number 4, cautiously get backup. Do not expect to be the sole resource for this couple. This is going to be very extremely complicated in the unraveling of this potentially dangerous situation. If you are not thoroughly experienced in how to deal with a psychopath, seek out someone in your field who has this experience, someone you can confide in and get third-party advice from. Maybe even have someone join you in the sessions. Proceed with caution, because you cannot trust any professional person who does not possess the skills necessary to deal with a predatory psychopath, or to see that the psychopath victim is adequately cared for, protected, and tended to appropriately in the unraveling of this psycho relationship. Number 5, never underestimate the power of a psychopath. Do not call 911 or law enforcement unless you know for a fact that the person you are communicating with has experience with psychopathy and psychopath victims. Predatory psychopaths can be very powerfully persuasive, and even in the face of facing threats of legal ramifications or criminal charges, this kind of threat might be intimidating for you and me, but not the psychopath. He or she believes that they're above the law, and predatory psychopaths believe that they can con and manipulate anyone to do their bidding. And it's shocking at how often this is true. More damage has been done to victims of psychopaths with the best intentions of unqualified people trying to do the best they can to help their clients, including law enforcement, which is generally unqualified or unprepared to deal with a highly proficient psychopath. If you feel like you might be in over your head, refer the couple to someone else in your field who can help step through this process of getting the victim to a safe and secure environment. Number 6, Do not victimize the victim even more. Moving too quickly or not having adequate compassion and understanding for the unfortunate circumstances of the psychopath victim can add secondary psychopathic abuse. In fact, the psychopath is counting on this happening to the victim and has set things in motion to assure the secondary abuse is executed to further inflict the victim in their absence. Do not challenge a victim of predatory psychopaths as you would a normal person. I mean, this means you don't encourage or challenge them by saying something like, "Why don't you just leave? Just man up and do what you got to do. Call the cops. Just get over it. Let's kick his ass." Almost anything that you might say to any normal person will send this victim into a destructive whirlpool, adding to the pain and suffering they've already endured. The emotional crux of being victimized by a predatory psychopath cannot be compared to battered wife syndrome or even Stockholm syndrome. It doesn't even hold a candle to the level of mind-warping exploitation the victim has been subject to. And I know, if you've had no experience with this type of abuse, it sounds like BS. But nothing can be further from the truth. And now, how do I know? Because there was a time when I thought so. Early in my practice, I was a religious counselor, and I can tell you, there was no way in hell that I thought there could be a really evil person, devoid of any sense of humanity, just out there to exploit and victimize people. I mean, no way. I had seen every variety of dregs of society and criminal element turn their lives around. So I was convinced that there was no one who was beyond salvation or redemption. And here's the bad part. When someone would come into my office and claim that they are being victimized by an evil person, I didn't believe them. It sounded too bizarre to be true. I mean, you hear about psychopaths in the media. Serial killers who go on rampages, those who walk seamlessly among us, yet do all these horrific things, killing and eating people without as much as a wince. No guilt, no remorse, and not a care for the victim or who they might be leaving behind. Human monsters. But I never met one. And when we think about psychopaths, that's the image that we're handed by Hollywood and the news, even though this type of psychopath is extremely rare and accounts for about 1 in 10,000 psychos. Psychopathy is a spectrum, and on one end of the scale is a perfectly normal member of the community who could be your next door neighbor, who only expresses his or her psychopathy by maybe swerving to hit your dog if it wandered out into the street as he or she was driving by. On the other end of the spectrum are the serial killers we hear so much about. Predatory psychopaths are closer to that end of the spectrum, but not that far. They may be capable of murder, but they're less likely to kill you. Though they may if they felt there was no other option, and are probably not going to do the killing themselves. If they want someone to die, chances are they will find someone who they may manipulate into doing the dirty work for them. Proficient predatory psychopaths have a unique set of persuasive skills and are much more likely to make victims feel so badly about themselves that they take their own lives. Problem solved. And no crime was committed because the person they wanted to take care of took care of the problem themselves, committing suicide. Or maybe they died of natural causes. Natural causes. Psychopaths also hold important positions in our society. I mean, who else is going to be more qualified to work for the FBI, CIA, or in the military in positions that normal people are less likely to succeed in? Psychopaths make the best government agents, spies, special forces, drill sergeants, snipers, interrogators, judges, and politicians. You will find them thriving in Washington, D.C., Hollywood, and on Wall Street. They are the take-no-prisoner CEOs, award-winning attorneys, and media personalities. You also find that they make great policemen, surgeons, chefs, and religious leaders. And just for the record, in case you didn't know, in the criminal justice system, diagnosed psychopaths receive lighter sentences than their neurotypical citizens are charged with the same crimes. Now, I'll let you ponder that one for a while. We do need them, even if they tend to fall into the darkness and find themselves at odds with the law. Our society operates better when we have our psychopaths strategically positioned throughout the system. There are jobs where their particular skill sets are invaluable in function and form. But when you have these predatory loose cannon psychos milling about the general population, seeking whom they might devour, that's when we have troubles. And the poor victims, they were normal people, just like you and me, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time when they showed up on the psycho's radar. Blip! These were such nice people. Those are the ones they target the most. They're kind, compassionate, trustworthy, upstanding men and women, often in positions of servitude, who did not see this coming. And who would? You would not think that any such thing would be possible if you didn't have experience. And if someone tried to warn you about it, or if you heard someone else's story about their entanglement with a predatory psychopath, you wouldn't believe it. And if you did, you would think, well, certainly that could never happen to me. I mean, I'm smart and resourceful. And these victims are demoralized, desensitized, and every part of their brain has been scrubbed by the psychopath. I mean, you have no idea unless this happened to you. The mind is an incredible machine. And when we're not getting our way, we're not getting what we want, we can imagine all kinds of things and overreact to skirt responsibility or find a way out of an unpleasant situation that we might have gotten ourselves into. And that's what I thought I was dealing with back in the day when I would take these poor, defenseless Christians and throw them right back into the hungry lion's den with a nonchalant, Jesus loves you. God would never give you more than you can handle. You pray about it, and I'll pray with you. All things work together for good for those who love God. God bless you. But in my ignorance and unbelief, I sent these poor souls back for more. I just could not allow myself to believe that an understanding, God-fearing, tithe-paying member of the church could be guilty of such depravity and exploitation of an innocent soul. And I stand corrected, guilty, and regretful for not knowing, for not better serving those who trusted me, whom I was entrusted with the care and well-being of. But I know now, and I know I can make a difference. This leads me to number 7. Forgive yourself. You will never know how you may have fallen short in the sincere performance of your craft and commitment in helping others until you know. And when you do, please do not judge yourself harshly, because you and any of us, we only know what we know, and we're doing the best we can based on the information that we have at any given time. If you find yourself in this situation, please seek to cut yourself some slack and forgive yourself. Do not let yourself fall into second-guessing or beating yourself up unmercifully. You have survived this experience to better prepare you in the now. Today, it's all about the now. Ask yourself, how can I take what I've learned from the past, the good and the bad, and turn it into valuable work in the now? Then go about doing that. So we've talked about couples coming into your practice, but I haven't warned you about the psychopath who will come into your practice soliciting your services alone just to exploit you and set you up for the kill. Now be aware that there is no intake firewall that is so impenetrable for the psychopath. They will likely come in with a referral from someone else, and they will be your most outstanding client. Your files will be filled with astounding stories of overcoming challenges as you start personal, professional, and spiritual growth that is truly impressive. You will use his or her stories to tell your other clients what is possible because you were there. You witnessed it with your own eyes, or at least you thought you did. But what was really happening was the psychopath was executing his long con for you. Why? The same basic reason that any psychopath does anything. Because he wants something you can provide. And hopefully it's not your home, family, or your practice. It could very well be that the psychopath knows that sooner or later he or she will find him or herself in a compromising position where someone in a revered position such as yours can go to bat for him or her. And you might be able to persuade someone about what a great person he or she is, either to a new mark, a questioning victim, a spouse, family member, or even to a jury. And when the truth comes out, no one would judge you, even though you might feel embarrassed or ashamed because you've been conned by a predatory psychopath, but you were just doing your job to the best of your ability. And your star client that you've been raving about, well, sometimes things are just not as they appear to be. So do your part. Be keenly aware and protect yourself from being taken advantage of by a predatory psychopath. And if you want to help others, you might consider becoming a certified psychopath victims coach. Because, Lord knows, they need someone like you. If you feel like you can help them, then certainly pursue that venue. This can be a great service to your community and a greater way to expand your practice by serving victims of psychopaths. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is David M. Masters, and you can find out more about me at davidmmasters.com. God bless.